What's going on, guys? And welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where every single week I, Graham Jason Matthews, break down all the content I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking the latest episode of Ride Along entitled Lost in New York. This episode took place right before Christmas last year, about a month or so ago, for the SmackDown that I was actually in attendance for at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. So on this episode, we have Corey Graves and Carmella in one car, their first episode of Ride Along together since they became a couple about a year ago. And then Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross in the other car. I know Bliss has been on the show before, probably multiple times. I don't know if I've ever seen Nikki Cross on the show before. I don't know if she's appeared on an episode in the last year since she got called up to the main roster. Probably not. But it was a very good episode overall. I mean, these shows are never newsworthy. You just watch them for the fun of it. And the chemistry that both Graves and Carmella, as well as Alexa and Nikki have, makes the episode worth watching. It clocks in at around 18, 19 minutes. And again, this was another piece of, network programming that came out this past week that I was not there for, like I wasn't in the car with them, but I was at that SmackDown show. I was in New York that day for that SmackDown show that I got invited to at the last minute. Thanks to Richie for the awesome tickets for that show. And then I was also at WrestleMania 35. So when they put up the 24 on that last week, they put up, Miz and Mrs. That's not on the network, but this week's episode of Miz and Mrs., which I broke down on Friday, in case you haven't already checked it out, that broke down, that revolved around WrestleMania 35 week, with Miz and Maurice being in New York. So this wasn't WrestleMania 35 week, but it was New York City, and I was there for this show as well. So anyway, we kick off the episode finding out that Corey and Carmella brought Pancake with them. Not a pancake from the New Day, not a literal pancake, but their dog named Pancake. It was very cute, if I do say so myself. Meanwhile, Alexa Bliss drives with Nikki Cross. Alexa Bliss is the one in the driver's seat. Corey drives in his car. Like I said, they're traveling from somewhere in New York City. I think probably in Brooklyn. I'm not sure. They're in New York City, traveling to the Barclays Center in Brooklyn for SmackDown that night. When Nikki gets in the car, she actually gives Alexa a framed picture as a Christmas gift. Alexa does not give her anything in return. She probably saved her Christmas gift for another time. I guess it was some sort of a magnet and a picture of the two of them. It was a cool little gift. Meanwhile, Alexa Bliss is adjusting her seat because she's so small that she can barely see over the dashboard, over the wheel, through the windshield, because the chair is so low and she's so short, so she got to adjust it before they get going here. Meanwhile, in the Carmella and Corey car, Pancake is walking all over the place. He's in the middle of the car. He's on Corey's shoulder like a freaking parrot. He's all over the place. Thankfully, they do keep him sturdy, though, for most of the episode, even though, they're not driving fast in New York City. You really can't. But they have to keep a close eye on him because he doesn't have a seatbelt on. He's got to stay safe. Again, Alexa, we go back to her car. She can barely reach the pedals of the car because she's so short. I never really thought about that before, but I guess people that are super short have to deal with that type of thing. And I'm not talking about little people like midgets or something like that either. I'm talking about people like Alexa Bliss, who is really, really short and can apparently barely reach the pedals. But they get going. They're good to go. Carmella and Corey, before they get to the arena, stop at Starbucks for Carmella. I don't think Corey gets a coffee, but Carmella definitely wants to stop. She ordered ahead of time to get a coffee. And she jokes about how Corey acts differently when the cameras are on as opposed to when they're not on. I completely get that. I totally get that. He acts, so invested in her, so interested in Carmella when the cameras are off. He acts like a totally different person when he's not around other people. I feel like I'm that exact same way with Alexa, so I can relate to that. Not my words, they're her words. So I could totally get where Corey is coming here, or where he's coming from here, where he talks about, or rather where Carmella brings up how, he acts all cool and edgy in front of the camera, but behind the scenes, when the cameras aren't rolling, when that red light isn't on, he's as mushy and as romantic as could be. Alexa Bliss talks about her pig, Larry Steve, who we've heard quite a bit about over the last number of years. I think she actually adopted the pig on an episode of Total Divas years ago. And she talked about how Larry Steve knocked over her Christmas tree in her apartment or in her house or whatever. The thing's 200 pounds now, which is crazy because he uses the tree, I guess, to scratch himself. So he put his butt up against it and he knocked the whole tree over and I was afraid of it. And it was really cute videos and pictures that she took of Larry Steve. She probably posts all about it on Instagram. I don't know if I follow her on Instagram, but she posts a lot about it on those platforms and whatnot. Carmella also talks about how she did Sheamus's workout video, and Sheamus, I guess, had a tough time doing the Carmella booty workout, which he thought would be a piece of cake, but apparently not. It fucking killed his ass for like the rest of the day, he said after that. And Corey talks about seeing Carmella's booty, and it gets a little risque there. Nothing too bad, but it was funny nonetheless. Alexa Bliss and Nikki cross over in their car, then discuss how they love tagging together, how they've recently added some new moves to their repertoire. Then back with Corey and Carmella. Corey drops off Carmella at the Starbucks, but even though she has the coffee ready, he can't wait there in the middle of the road because the whole road is packed up with cars. It's New York City, so you can't just keep your car there like any other normal city in the country, or at least most cities, I should say. You gotta like circle back around, otherwise you're gonna get like maybe not arrested, but like beeped at, honked at, swore at. You gotta drive back around. Carmella doesn't really get that. They don't fight about it, but Corey is very anxious about the whole thing because he has to find his way back to Starbucks from a different direction. Anyway, Nikki Cross shares a story about how she can't change a tire. Well, me neither, so you're not alone there. But I guess she had to change her tire, and then someone helped her out, and she had a spare tire, but that was rusted at the bottom of the car or something like that. So it was a whole mess. She actually asks Alexa whether she should get a new car or not. I don't know what her old car or what her current car is, but she said that her current car she's had since she moved to the States a couple of years ago. Maybe not that long ago, but at least for the past 5, maybe 10 years, probably a little less than that. But it has 125,000 miles on it. And she was asking Alexa if that was a lot or whatever. I don't think that's a lot. I mean, my car has more miles on it than that. Mine isn't a new car, but she's probably been driving it for a while. And I guess it shows because it breaks down maybe twice every 6 months or so, which isn't a lot. But it shouldn't really happen at all. So Alexa's advice to her was, hey, don't get rid of that car. I mean, if it's still in decent shape, it doesn't break down a lot, and you only have 125,000 miles, which isn't a little, but it's not that many either. It still has a ways to go. Then just get another car and, hold on to that one and get another car to use so it doesn't break down. So I'm sure she's pondering that advice as to whether that's what she'll do or not. Meanwhile, so Carmella comes back with the coffee. Corey has to circle around, and he can't get the car doors open. Like, she's approaching the car. He can't get the doors open. It's a weird-ass car. Obviously, it's a rental. It's not his car, so he doesn't know what to do. And he admits that he gets anxious driving in Brooklyn because the fucking roads are ridiculous. There's people everywhere. Meanwhile, like, everybody, not just him and Carmella, but also Alexa and Nikki, everyone's having trouble driving in New York City because it's gridlocked. It's a mess. Carmella actually witnesses someone hit someone else's car. Not like nothing brutal, but someone was trying to parallel park, and they backed right into another car. And they got it on video, too. They showed the footage of it. And I think they blur out the license plates, so they can't do anything about it, but there's proof right there. Imagine if that was like your car and you're watching this episode and you're like, holy fuck, like that's the guy that, I mean, obviously it's impossible. The chances of that happening are so slim, it's ridiculous. But could you imagine that? That'd be so funny. Anyway, so everybody, Alexa and Corey, driving in their respective cars, keep almost hitting people because there's people walking out in the street when they're not supposed. It's New York City. It's New York City. What do you expect? I'm not blaming them because that would be the exact same way. They're getting pissed. They're like, get out of my way. And Corey gets pissed a lot easier than Alexa, but even she's getting frustrated because these people are all over the place. People are, she's like, I'll sideswipe you. I don't care. I'll sideswipe you. But, yeah, it's just a very troubling experience. One thing I hope to never experience in my life is driving in New York City or Brooklyn or anywhere in New York, to be honest with you. It's just a fucking mess. Nikki Cross, on a lighter note, admits that she can't ride a bike and she wants Alexa to teach her. Meanwhile, Carmella and Corey do a Twitter Q&A with the hashtag Cormella. And I guess, obviously, Corey's driving, so Carmella's on her phone answering the Twitter questions. Including but not limited to, will Corey ever become a Patriots fan? Because that's what, Carmella is. Carmella's actually from Massachusetts. I know she plays the Staten Island girl gimmick well, but that's not actually where she's from. She's from Massachusetts originally, so she's a Patriots fan. Corey lives in Connecticut now, I think. I mean, that's where he last lived when we last saw him on Total Divas a couple months ago, which was taped about a year ago. I get it, but I'm pretty sure he still lives there, unless they moved in together since then. But he's a Steelers fan because he comes from Pittsburgh. Corey said that he'll never be a Patriots fan, and Carmella admits that she will never be a Steelers fan. So that settles that. Someone asks her, what is the sweetest thing that you guys have ever done with they've ever done to each other, or whatever, for each other, I should say. Not to each other, for each other. Don't get it twisted. And he said, well, I bought you a bottle of water this morning, which was such a great answer, because that's exactly something that I would say if I was ever asked, like, hey, what's the sweetest thing you've ever done for your girlfriend? I'd be like, well, I bought her breakfast this morning. Like, I don't know. Like, that's kind of what I would say. Anyway. So, I guess they also discussed what they almost named Pancake. The original name they came up with, what Carmella wanted to name Pancake, was Oyster, which is such a dumb name. I gotta agree with Corey here. That's such a stupid name for a dog or anything that's not an oyster. That's a stupid-ass name, so Pancake's a lot cuter. They talk about tattoos and the tattoos that Carmella has, and she jokes that she almost has as many as Corey. I don't think she has any tattoos at all. Maybe she was telling the truth, but she's like, oh, I'm halfway to having as many tattoos as you, and I don't think she has any tattoos as far as I know, but obviously Corey's tatted to the gills. They also asked the Twitter users, who snores louder between Carmella and Corey? Apparently Corey snores a lot louder than Carmella does. And they also asked, what is it going to take to get Carmella on an episode of After the Bell, his WWE sanctioned podcast? And Corey just said, hey, all she has to do is just say the word. Just say the word and you're on the show. Nikki Cross over in their car recalls getting married to Killian Dane, her longtime boyfriend, NXT superstar. I guess his real name is Damien, because she keeps calling him Damien. I never knew what his real name was, but obviously his ring name before WWE was Big Damo. So she calls him Damo at one point. She calls him Killian, but I think his real name is Damien. So we see shots of their wedding and how people came up to her saying, oh, I never knew, this kind of came out of nowhere. And she's like, dude, we've been dating for over a decade. We've known each other for a long time. She actually reveals, which I never knew, that Killian Dane trained her while they were dating, but they were already dating by that point. And while they were dating, he trained her, which is cool. So he calls him. She calls him on the phone, which, is kind of a tradition here on Ride Along, where people will call other people up on the phone and we pick up, or they pick up and we hear the conversation. He picks up, but he can't hear her. He's like, oh, hello, 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 and he eventually just hangs up. She does have better luck later on, though. Carmella and Corey talk about that little tidbit that he dropped, that bombshell that he dropped on The Bump a few months ago back in November, when someone asked why. I don't know. I think it was somewhat a part of the fucking show. I don't know why. But they said, oh, where's the weirdest place that you've ever had done the whoopee, is what that dumb co-host said. Again, it was a really dumb way of phrasing the question. And Corey brought up a shower. I guess they had sex in a shower, which she did not deny, by the way. And she admits as such here. And she said, I can't believe you said that on the show for the entire world to hear. And I guess he also said on The Bump that Carmella, the most embarrassing thing that he's ever seen her do is that, I guess they were at the airport and she bent over and she showed everyone her fucking goodies or something. I don't know, her pants fell. I don't know what exactly he was alluding to. But something happened at an airport where she gave a view to some people that were around, like the TSA, that she probably shouldn't have. And again, she was also shocked that he shared that information with the world as well on The Bump a few months ago. So finally, Killian Dane picks up the phone. They discuss, they just talk, whatever. Alexa joins in. Nikki and Killian Dane agree while they're on the phone with each other that Die Hard, I guess they just watched Die Hard the other day or the other night or something. They both agree, as they should, that it's a Christmas movie. So fuck off with your opinions that it's not, because it absolutely is. If Nikki Cross says it's a Christmas movie, then 120% it is. Apparently, Alexa Bliss, though, has never seen it, which does not surprise me at all. Not one bit. Just because she's so into the Disney shit and the Hallmark movies, I am not surprised in the slightest that she has never seen Die Hard. They actually get pissed. Nikki's like, pull this car over right now. And Alexa even goes, or Killian Dane actually says on the phone, what do you mean you've never seen it? Aren't you 12? Aren't you 12 or something? Which is hilarious. They just roast Alexa Bliss here on the show. I'm not usually for oh, you've never seen this? Wow, how could you have never seen this? But I got to agree. You got to see Die Hard. It's a great movie. It's a great Christmas movie. Meanwhile, Corey and Carmella discuss a time. I don't exactly know what they were talking about here, but Corey accidentally pile drove himself head first in a block or something. I don't know what they were talking about. Nikki also reveals, which again I did not know, I guess she shares this info on her Instagram, but I don't follow her, so I wouldn't know, that she's taking some courses right now, like online courses in between being on the road. Like she'll do it after they get back from a house show. Like they showed a video here of her having to do her homework or something, coming home from or not home, but coming back to the hotel after a Raw live event in St. Louis. And I guess she's taking a course on the Holocaust right now, which is really interesting. Alexa doesn't know how she does it, which I completely agree. With the schedule they have, I have no clue how Nikki Cross is able to stay in school while on the road. That's unbelievable. So Carmella wakes up Pancake. I guess he's sleeping, and she wakes him up just to mock Corey Graves, the stay down thing that he does, or used to do in the ring, which is funny. They beep at a driver that was in the middle of the road for absolutely no reason. Again, welcome to New York. Carmella and Corey arrive at the arena. Alexa and Nikki follow soon after. And then Alexa, they all discuss how frustrating and how stressful it was to make it through driving in New York City. And Alexa even says, we'll stick to Ubers, which I totally agree. If I was in their position and I had to drive around all these different cities I've never been before, I would just cough up the cash and just pay a fucking Uber, because that's so incredibly stressful, I can't even imagine. But that's the note we end on for this episode of Ride Along, which I enjoyed very much, with Corey Graves, Carmella, Alexa Bliss, and Nikki Cross, entitled Lost in New York, obviously a play off the Home Alone sequel. Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. So check it out right now on the WWE Network. Plenty of network content coming up. Lately we had, I think, this aired on Friday after SmackDown. I didn't watch it until today. We also have a new Break It Down going up tonight. That I think it's going to be on Kevin Owens. So that's going up tomorrow, or that's going up tonight rather, at some point during the Super Bowl, I guess. I'll watch that probably tomorrow, Break It Down tomorrow here for the channel. And then I don't think anything new would air after Raw. They'll probably just air a replay of Break It Down after Raw. I'm sure a day of on the Royal Rumble's going up at some point in the next week or two, so keep an eye out for that. My thoughts on that here on the channel. But yeah, Miz and Miss is airing every Wednesday on the USA Network. Broke down the Season 2 premiere right here on Network and Chill on Friday, so that's probably going to be a regular thing here on the channel where I break down Miz and Misses on Fridays, and then my SmackDown reviews on Saturdays. So nonetheless, guys, have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the Super Bowl tonight if you're watching. Otherwise, have a great Sunday night. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.